How's it going, everyone? It's Savi from Weather SpongeBob. Today is October 5th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the Atlantic tropical hurricane season and our next potential tropical cyclone that could potentially form into next week. And we'll also talk about this other disturbance, which is just off the coast of the southeast that has a small chance of developing. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content, and make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current IR loop for the entire Atlantic at this point, and you see that right now it's pretty quiet. We aren't really seeing any areas with defined convection that has really much of a chance of developing. We do have a little bit of thunderstorm activity occurring right around the Caribbean Sea, but the wind shear is currently too strong as a result of an upper level low located in this region, so there's no chance of formation embedded within these thunderstorms. And we have another tropical wave, but again, it's dealing with the same problem that the upper level winds are just too strong at this point. And during the month of October, it's typical that the overall upper level winds increase throughout the Atlantic, including the main development region, where the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere will start coming from the west rather than move from the east, which is more typical during the months of September and August. So it seems the wind shear is currently inhibiting any sort of tropical wave from developing into tropical cyclone, which is definitely good news. However, there is that small possibility that these clusters of thunderstorms just off the coast of the southeast do maybe develop into a tropical cyclone, but it's currently unlikely at this point because you see just to the west of it, we're seeing a pretty strong trough, that's upper level trough, currently centered over the southeast at this point, and you see that it's gonna just create a very hostile environment for this storm because this upper level low is gonna definitely increase the wind shear over this area, so it's unlikely that these clusters of thunderstorms will develop into much of anything. Taking a look at the 5-day tropical weather outlook provided for the National Hurricane Center, you see it only has a 10% chance of developing. However, based on what some of the more reliable computer models are saying, such as the GFS model, there is that possibility that we could see a tropical cyclone development next week and a higher chance of tropical cyclone development because right now it seems like, especially the GFS model, is currently detecting an environment where tropical wave coming off the west coast of Africa could develop into our next tropical cyclone, as it's gonna find a little bit of an area where the conditions won't be as hostile as they are right now, and thanks to a negative MJO pattern that's gonna move through, we could see tropical activity spark once again. So just because we're in the month of October and just because we are winding down from the peak of the hurricane season, it does not at all mean that the hurricane season is pretty much done, because we have seen just very powerful October hurricanes. Some hurricanes that come into mind are Hurricane Michael, which made landfall as a Category 5 in Florida, which in the month of October, which was just amazing how powerful that is in the month of October. We also, of course, had Hurricane Wilma, another powerful tropical cyclone. So you don't want to underestimate the month of October when it comes to tropical cyclones, as I'm gonna keep a close eye on it still over the next couple of weeks, because there's still that possibility of tropical cyclone development embedded in one of these waves that may come off the coast of Africa. So taking a look at the current relative humidity throughout the Atlantic at this point, you see that dry air is currently swallowing a lot of the main development region at this point, and that's definitely inhibiting tropical cyclone development. However, there's going to come to a point where beyond the 5-day mark into next week, you're going to see that we're going to see more moisture come off the west coast of Africa, and we're going to see that moisture move into the main development region, and this could be this little area where our next tropical cyclone develops. And the GFS model goes as far as developing a little bit of a tropical cyclone, which would become Tropical Storm Wanda at this point, just off the Caribbean coast, and it's coming uncomfortably close to the Caribbean. But keep in mind, I'm going around 6 days out, so there's still a lot of time for the GFS model to iron this forecast out. However, it isn't so far to the point where we can't completely disregard it either, as GFS model is leaning towards bringing a more moist and a less hostile environment when it comes to upper level winds in that area, and that could certainly raise the chances of tropical cyclone development, because you see that while the wind shear is strong for the most part throughout the Atlantic, we have a little bit of an upper level low located in the Caribbean, and a trough moving through the Gulf of Mexico. At this point, you see that the wind shear will eventually die down beyond the 120-hour mark, where we're going to see a little area where the wind shear will be light, and this could be the area where our next tropical cyclone forms. Now, again, we're still days away from this possibility occurring if it were to occur, so there's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast, but it seems like the GFS model is leaning more towards a more moist and light wind sheared environment, and that could maybe create tropical storm Wanda in the future. And another worry is that this could come uncomfortably close to the Caribbean. So the Caribbean, at least be aware of this, because there is that possibility that tropical cyclone development could occur next week. Although I'm forecasting this 6 days out, you certainly don't want to rule out any sort of chance of tropical cyclone development, especially since we're still in the month of October, which is still a relatively active month for a lot of the Atlantic when it comes to tropical cyclones. So you see the wind shear will be light, but there's still a lot of questions, because again, there could be that possibility that maybe this upper level low moves a little bit further eastward, and that could limit the chances of this developing. But the good news is that the GFS model does eventually expect the wind shear to win out and pretty much kill this storm or drift it out to sea, which is good news. But again, there's still a lot of questions regarding the exact track, as it's still way too far to determine where exactly it'll go. But if it were to develop, it'll develop somewhere in the vicinity of the Caribbean, and the most we could really hope for is that this drifts out to sea. And in the month of October, it's more likely than not that possibility occurs, because of course during the month of October we begin to see the wind shear increase, we begin to see troughs move further southward, as well as upper level lows that move in a westerly direction, from west to east, which means that it's very difficult for a tropical cyclone to move very far west without getting caught up by some of these troughs that dip down and pretty much steer it out to sea, or without getting caught by an upper level low, as typically the troughs and upper level lows are far more southward in the month of October than, let's say, in September and August. So the more probable scenario is that this will eventually get taken out to sea, because it could only go so far before the strong westerly winds in October pretty much shear out to sea. But we have to wait and see, because there's still a lot of uncertainty, as I'll make sure to update you guys when it comes to this potential tropical wave in the future. In terms of what the European model is forecasting, it is forecasting maybe just a little bit of vorticity embedded in one of these tropical waves, but isn't really developing anything that's very well defined, which is certainly good news, and hopefully that stays that way. But we at least need to keep an eye on this, because the GFS model is a reliable computer model, and we can't really take it lightly when it comes to forecasts like this, even if they are right around the 6-day mark. Now, taking a look at another thing that really indicates that we could be in for more tropical storm activity in the future, in the very near future, is the MJO pattern. And pretty much what this means is that if we're in a negative MJO pattern, there's more likely than not of a shot of tropical cyclones developing, because the atmosphere is a lot more unstable. However, if we're in a positive MJO pattern, It's a lot more difficult for tropical cyclones to develop when the air is a little bit more stable. But you see that within the forecast within the next 2 weeks is that we're gonna enter a negative MJO pattern in the Atlantic. So we could see an uptick in tropical storm activity and tropical cyclone activity within the 1 to 2 week mark from what we're seeing now. Because right now we're in a positive MJO pattern, which certainly has been helping inhibiting tropical cyclone development for the moment, but that could change headed into the future and headed more and into the mid-October timeframe. So there's certainly still a lot left of the hurricane season. While we are past the peak at this point, we certainly don't want to underestimate what the October hurricane season poses for us. So we need to at least stay aware of the hurricane season. I'll make sure to update you guys regarding any sort of new tropical cyclones that may form in the Atlantic in the future. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather area calls. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather area content. And I hope you guys have a good day.